Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. I've interviewed a lot of authors over the years, but none whose story is as relevant to our times. Addiction, desperation, self-loathing, attempted suicide, redemption, and the struggle to live a purposeful life. That's Brian Carney's story. His pen name is Brian Storm. Truth be told, I was excited to see what was waiting for me on the other side. Storm writes in the first chapter of his unflinching yet hopeful memoir of facing addiction. That harrowing opening chapter recounts with detail worthy of a noir novel the thieving, multiple drug transactions, and curious excitement of the January night that Storm tried to die on the train tracks in Northeast Philadelphia, and how he was jolted back by an ex's out-of-the-blue effort to contact him. The book that follows reveals how he got to that point, what happened next, his AA journey, and how a little over a decade later, he's found purpose in helping others who are facing similar demons. Brian, welcome to 30 Minutes.
Thank you very much, Rick. Appreciate it.
I've been looking forward to meeting you.
Me too.
And I appreciate you taking the time. I know you work during the day, and so it was good of you to take off to be with us. How's life treating you these days?
Great. Beyond my wildest dreams.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
What was your dream?
Just to live a normal life.
Yeah.
Settle down, have a wife, and like some pets. We have tons of cats in my house at all times, and I love it.
That's great. How has the attention your book has gotten changed you or your life?
I don't want to say it really changed my life. If anything, it changed my work life, because a lot of patrons, I work for the Free Library of Philadelphia, and
right.
A lot of patrons come in, and like I was on the newspaper of the South Philly Review like a couple weeks ago, and people have been coming in like, you're on the front page in the newspaper, and they're like, great. I want to read your book. So like, I feel like a little celebrity at work, but like outside of my work life, it doesn't really seem much different.
Well, you are a celebrity. Yeah. No, you truly are.
I like to think so.
You represent something that's very important.
Yes, of course.
You represent beating the devil. You represent turning a life around that was about to be extinguished.
Yes, very
by
close.
Your own hand. And you've lived to tell the story and to be an example for other people.
Yes.
That's a hell of a story. That's worth living for.
Yes, so, I agree.
Yeah. And I commend you for that.
I had a little help along the way.
Well, tell me about that. Well, what help? From up there?
Oh, definitely from up there. Yeah, oh yeah. God, there was a point in my life where me and God didn't really see eye to eye, I was actually thinking this on my way here, like, I didn't really find God. I feel like God found me because God was always there. He didn't go anywhere. I was the one who was lost. So I feel like God found me, and God works through other people. That's the key. And God put people in my life who helped me and taught me how to do these 12 steps and how to go to meetings and how to help other people and just how to live a good normal life without drugs and alcohol.
Tell me about that night when, in desperation, I suppose, you decided to end your life.
Yeah.
And you went to the train tracks at the Northeast Philadelphia station?
Yeah, it was the Tacony station, train station. Yes.
And you sat on the rail waiting for the train?
Yes. Well, first I bought a whole bunch of drugs. I bought like uppers and downers and hallucinogens, and I bought everything I can get my hands on and took them all at once, hoping that would just wipe me out, but it didn't work for whatever reason. And so that's when I moved to the train track. I walked to the train tracks. That was like my plan B. And I don't know. I felt like the world would be better off without me. I couldn't deal with the pain anymore. Like I was doing the same thing every day. I was waking up, stealing, robbing money from people, doing whatever I could to get my next $10. And I was just tired of living like that. I felt like I wasn't even living, to be honest with you.
How long did you live like that?
Well, I was on heroin for about 3 years. So like that was like the worst period,
You were in treatment, not treatment at all?
No.
When police found you in the gutter and they hauled you in, Did they just put you in a cell, or did they give you some kind of treatment?
No, they put me right into a jail cell, and I had to withdraw cold turkey. Now, prior to that arrest, I was in the process of going through something called treatment court. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't like officially entered into it yet. I was just kind of waiting. So they were going to send me to rehab anyway. I was just waiting until, I had to go to see the judge and they were going to send me. But so while I was waiting, I got arrested again, and that I had to sit in there until they sent me to rehab.
What do you think of the system? Did the system fail you?
No, I think the system helped me. I wish they would have moved a little faster. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like if they did give me rehab earlier, I might not have been ready yet either. And I might have left after 2 days, because I did that before. I went to rehab and I left like 2 days later.
Where were you living? Were you living on the street?
At one point I was, but I was renting a room from some guy for like $25 a week at the time. So.
You weren't working at the time, I assume?
Oh, I was selling drugs, if they count that as a job. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was pretty much my job, yeah.
Yeah. Who pulled you off the tracks?
My ex-girlfriend. She just happened to call me at the right moment, and I honestly don't even remember what was said. I just know she said something, and I got up off the tracks and walked away. And 60 seconds after I walked off the tracks, a train went speeding by, one of the speeding bullet trains.
What went through your head at that time?
At that moment, I felt lucky. I was like, wow. Like
you were still zonked. I mean, you had all that stuff in you.
Yeah, I was, but I felt lucky. I was like, what did I almost do? Like I couldn't believe that I came that close. But yeah.
She called you on your cell phone?
Yes.
And then what happened?
After that, I think I went home. It wasn't that night. I think it was the day after, I wrote a letter to my brother, and I told him everything. I told him I was hooked on heroin, because I was living with my brother at that moment. I told him I was hooked on heroin, and I was stealing off him, and I almost killed myself. And I left a letter on the table for him to get. And when he read it, he told me, listen, you have two options. You can either go to rehab or get out of my house. So I chose to go to rehab, but it didn't work that time, but yeah.
Are you you're not living with your brother now?
No, I'm living
you have a wife and
I'm
child.
living with my wife now.
And all those cats.
And all them cats, that's right. My brother wouldn't want all those cats. One or two is okay with him, but that's it.
Aside from your book, The Struggle 10 Years Later, and your previous book, The Struggle.
Yes.
Aside from the lapse in time between the two books, how are they different?
Well, when I wrote the first one, I was newly clean and sober. I didn't know much about writing. I loved writing, but I didn't know a lot about grammar and stuff like that, and structure. And so when I wrote it, I just kind of ran it through Microsoft Spell Check and called it a day, self-published it. And people were like, well, you're missing a word here, and there should be a comma here, and why is your period outside the quotation? I had all these people come up to me and like tell me this stuff. So I was like, okay, I got to rewrite it. It took me 10 years to rewrite it, because I was procrastinating for so long. But this time I went to school, and I have an associate's degree now, so I took a couple English courses, and I learned a lot about writing in those English courses. So now I know a lot more about writing. I applied that to the.
But the sequel is not just a correction of the typos in the first book. It's an update, I assume, and probably with more insight that you gained over 10 years.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I have a little more wisdom now. Yeah. I know a lot more about the 12-step programs. So I included all that in the book too, and so I would say probably the first 60% of the book is the same as the first one, but then the other 40% is I get more detailed in my 12 steps and in the last 10 years of my life.
But my understanding is that people in your predicament, and that's what it is at this point, predicament, live day to day. That you're not really cured. You live day to day, and there's a new, fresh resolution every morning.
That's right, one day at a time.
Yeah. So how do you fortify that? How do you make yourself so strong that you can move from one day to the next with greater confidence?
Well, I don't think about tomorrow, you know, and the reason why they tell you one day at a time, because when you're newly clean and sober, they tell you, you can't think, oh, I can never drink or get high again for the rest of my life. Yeah. So, no, you just don't have to drink or get high today. And if I make it today, then I try again tomorrow, you know?
Tell me about the religious or spiritual aspect of recovery.
So in recovery, they refer to it as a higher power, which could literally be anything you want it to be. There are even atheists in recovery. So even if someone doesn't believe in God, doesn't mean they can't go to a 12-step program, you know? But my religious understanding is like, I was raised Catholic, but when I got clean and sober, I believed in God, but there were certain things about that religion I just didn't believe, because it was like, that religion contradict this religion, and this religion contradict that, and like which one of them are right? So I took the one thing they all have in common is that there's a God. I took that and just kind of left the rest behind, just to keep it simple for my own, because I have my mind is out of whack, you know, it's all over the place. So if I overthink something, it's too much. So I just have to take that one thought and just leave the rest. Keep it simple.
Is that a consequence of the drugs and addiction?
It very well could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had tests to see whether or not there was any brain damage?
I have not, no.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Because there might be some things you can do to get a clearer head. To get a clearer head. Tell us exactly, again, what saved you. I mean, there was a moment on the track.
Yes.
The call came in from God knows where. You got up off the track. That was an epiphany. That was a new beginning. That was, I don't know if the self-loathing and despair and everything just disappeared at that point. You woke up came up with a new resolve. What did you do after that? No. You were still, your body was still flush with all that junk.
Yeah.
You couldn't have been thinking straight.
No, I wasn't. But like I said, like I reached out to my brother through the letter, and he told me to go to rehab. So that's what I did. Like I was on methadone at the time, so I had to get off the methadone to go to rehab, and there was a lot of like hurdles I had to jump through, basically, you know, to get to that. But they eventually did. I ended up stealing from my brother again while I was waiting to get into rehab, and excuse me. And he kicked me out on the street, you know.
Good for him.
But yeah, really, seriously, because, you know, if anyone's out there and you have a loved one who is struggling with addiction and living with you, sometimes you have to kick them out, because that's the only way, you know. But when he did that, I was still determined to get help, though, you know. And I made it to the detox, but then I met some girl in detox, and that kind of ruined all my plans, you know. Because I was planning on going to rehab after the detox, but once I met this girl, we were going to keep each other clean, you know, and it didn't work out at all, and that was like my downfall, and I was right back to where I was a couple weeks later.
You were very fortunate.
Yeah, I know.
You could have been dead several times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you say? And I don't know whether or not AA sends you out as an ambassador now for clean living and stay clean and so on. I don't know that. But what do you say to other addicts who are trying to kick the habit?
Well, basically, I tell them my story, you know, because in 12-step program, we don't really just go out and tell people like, hey, you have a problem and you need to get help. Like, they have to come up with that idea themselves, you know? So what I do is I will go and share my story with someone. And if they can relate to it, and then they see, oh, well, you know, I do that stuff. You did the same thing, but now you're living this clean and sober life. Well, maybe I can too. And then I let them know, like, look, if you want what I have, you know, I can show you how to do it. And then I might bring them to a meeting or so, you know?
Are there dealers and pushers still after you?
No, I haven't talked to them since I got clean and sober.
But I would think they've lost a customer and they want to get the customer back.
Yeah, well, you know what I did? After I got out of rehab, you know, they gave me my phone back. And the first thing I did was go through my numbers, because I wanted to call someone and tell them, hey, I'm doing good. And I noticed every number I had was either a drug dealer or a drug addict. So I deleted all them phone numbers. But then I thought about that. I was like, well, what if one of them called me?
Yeah.
So I took the battery out of the phone and I went to the people at the rehab. I'm like, here, throw this in the trash for me. Because I didn't even want them to call me. And then I went out and got a new phone. You know, and that way they didn't have my number no more and I didn't have theirs. Smartest thing I ever did.
Do you spend time talking to groups of youngsters, young people, about drug addiction and alcoholism?
Not as much as I would like to. My high school I went to, they actually reached out to me about a week ago and asked me to come out. I said, absolutely, you know. But yeah, it's something I would definitely like to do more often, but no one ever like really asked me to do that.
Well, let's see if we can fix that.
Yeah, absolutely.
By getting more exposure, because your story is certainly worth telling.
Yeah.
What do you think when you hear the reports that over 100,000 young people every year die of fentanyl?
It's sad. It's so sad, man. They're pointless deaths, you know. They can be avoided, you know.
But you know the system. You know how it comes in. You know how it's distributed.
Yeah.
And you know how devastating it can be.
Absolutely.
Can you be of any help to authorities in improving the programs they have to stop it?
Yes, actually, the rehab I went to, they recently reached out to me and asked me to write a letter to the senators, because they're actually looking for funding to open up a new unit where people can just walk in right off the street and get the help they need, and they can stay there while they're waiting to get into the rehab. Because right now, the way it's set up is, if someone's addicted to drugs and they're living on the street, right? They might walk into a detox center because they need to detox from heroin first, but there's no beds open. They can't do it, so they'll go somewhere else. There's no beds open. They might tell them, hey, come back next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday come, they don't want the help no more because now they got their drugs, they got some more money, they don't care no more. If someone wants help, they have to get it like right away. So by this place opening up a spot like that where someone can just walk in and get help immediately, that's what really needs to happen. There needs to be more beds available for people immediately.
So are they looking for more city, state, or federal funding, or they don't care where it comes from?
I don't think they care. I think it's coming from the state, because one of the senators was Fetterman. I had to write a letter to. Another one was
from the state. Well, Fetterman would be federal.
Oh, is it federal? Okay, well, I'm not up with the politics. Yeah, and the other one was Casey. Yeah. So that is federal. Okay,
that's federal.
All right, thanks for clearing that up, because I didn't know.
There must be state agencies as well.
I'm sure there are.
For something like this. They asked you to write a letter.
Yes. So I wrote a letter explaining how self-help saved my life, and explain how beneficial this could be to the community and how many people it will be able to help by just walking in off the street like that.
And you got one of those. Thank you for writing. We will put it under consideration responses.
Well, I don't know. I handed it to the rehab, and they have a packet. They're sending it with with the forms and everything, I guess.
I understand you had a talent for writing before all of this. As a youngster, you liked to write.
It was a different style of writing, but yes.
Well, you were a rapper too?
I was a rapper, yes. I wrote a lot of hip-hop songs,
Was that an aspiration at the time, that you wanted to become a professional entertainer, a rapper?
Yeah, at first it started...
that certainly takes care of the self-image.
Yeah. At first, I started getting into rap because of Weird Al Yankovic. He used to write parodies of all these famous songs. So that's what the first song I ever wrote was a parody to this hip hop song. I know it's called Nothing But a G Thing. But I wrote Nothing But a Big Mac. And it was all about McDonald's cheeseburgers and stuff. And it started, but then I realized I really like doing this. Yeah. So that's how it started. And then the more I did it, the more I loved it. And yeah, I really wanted to be like a famous rapper at one point.
Do you still write?
Nah, I haven't written rap in a long time. No.
Why?
Well,
you enjoyed it? You were good at it?
I did, yeah. After I got clean and sober, I tried to go to open mics. I tried to do shows. And every time I did one of these shows, they were always at bars, or they were always out at a place where people were smoking weed and stuff. So I felt like I had a choice. Like, am I going to try to hang out with all these people who are just drinking and smoking, or am I going to stay sober? So
Are there other books you'd like to write? Or let me put that another way. You're using publishing to reach your audience.
Yes.
You'd like to speak more as well to reach an audience.
Yes.
I asked you whether or not you've been approached about adapting the book to a film. Not yet, but maybe that'll happen as well.
Yes.
Are there other ways you think you can get the message out broader to reach more people?
Well,
The right people? Who's your target? Is the target young people, older people?
the target is everyone and anyone. Because
Yeah.
just about everyone's affected by addiction in one way or another, you know? And like, that's really the story here is like of course it's to help addicts so that they can read it and say, hey, I can get clean too. But also for people who might have like a son or daughter or brother or cousin or aunt, uncle,
Yes.
mom, or dad
Yes.
who are going through this and they just want a little hope. Like, if this guy can do it, then I know they can too, you know, just to offer a little hope. So
do you see it as a self-help book? If an addict reads it, is there enough instruction in it so that they can begin to help themselves?
yes, I mean, it's not,
No, I don't mean step by step necessarily.
yeah, it's not really step by step like that, but yeah, I mean, they would get the idea like, okay, I need to reach out. I need to go to a detox or rehab or a 12-step meeting. And yeah, they would definitely know how to. I even have resources in the back on phone numbers and websites they can visit on where to get the help they need, you know.
If you had the power to do one thing, other than everything you're doing now, but to do one thing that would help to get your message out in a better way, through song, maybe rap, maybe a movie, maybe just being on a speaking tour that takes you around the country, what would you like to do?
I think the movie. Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of people don't read books. You know, a lot of people do, but there's a whole audience out there that won't read a book.
Yes.
But if they see a movie, they will read the movie, you know. So I would absolutely go with the movie.
Have you looked into that? How
Yes.
much it would cost?
No, not. I haven't looked. I looked into the screenwriting aspect because I wrote a screenplay for my first book,
did.
I'm planning on writing another one for this book because I have to include the last 10 years and stuff. But but yeah.
Okay. Is there another book in the offing?
I'm actually just wrote a children's book. It's not.
Another one?
Yes, I'm kind of like sitting it on the shelf for now and going back to it later. You know, so I can look at it for a fresh pair of eyes. But yeah, it's geared towards like middle-aged children, like 9, 10-year-olds. You know what I mean?
Where was the real problem? At what age? I mean, you started at 14.
Yes.
Today, I think you're starting much earlier than that, much younger.
Yes, I think it is too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's so trashy. It really is. Can you reach them?
I can try.
Well,
You know,
I mean, how do you reach a fifth grader, a sixth grader, the peer pressure, social media, all the junk that's in their lives? How do you get through all that?
I don't have the answer for that. I'm gonna be honest, but I have some ideas. You know, like I think back to when I was that age, what was going through my mind, and then try to get them to relate to it. Because when I was in like 6th grade, I told myself, I'm never doing drugs. I'm never drinking beer. You know, like, but I did because, you know, for part of it was because I was hanging with the wrong people. You know what I mean? But another part was it because I had low self-esteem. So maybe if I could talk to kids and try to boost their self-esteem, then I think that might help a little bit. Or at least it's at least worth a try. You know.
There wasn't a teacher that you had a special relationship with that you could talk to?
Not back then, no. It really wasn't. I was never really a big school person. You know, I really wasn't. I just kind of daydreamed in school every day. You know.
You were a real mess.
Yeah, I was. I definitely was.
Somehow we got to get you to somebody who can at least talk through what would be involved in a movie. Because it is the stuff of a movie. I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah.
It would, and there, as you know, there are producers in Hollywood who specialize in producing and getting the funds for feel-good movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you aware of that? It's a whole genre of feel-good movies, lessons, stories, things like that.
Yeah, I know the genre, but I didn't know that there were specific producers for that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, money's kind of tight these days, but it could still be possible. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I have 5 children, 15 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
And I'm concerned about them, all of them, even my own children who are far from youngsters. Again, I can't help wondering, what would you say to them? I mean, they're all smart, they think they're bright, they think they know everything, we're all stupid. What would you say to them? One word. You said it before, the lesson in your children's book is, listen to your parents.
Listen,
right? Yeah, and do what you're told.
Yes.
Is it that simple? Live a good, clean life?
It is, because you know what? That was the one thing I did. When I got to the rehab for the last time, that's the thing I did differently, is I listened. Before I was stubborn, and I didn't want to listen to anyone else.
Yeah.
But when I listened and opened my ears, that's when my life started to change.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate
My
being
guest
here.
today on 30 Minutes has been Brian Storm. That's an alias, though. It's really Brian Carney, who's written a book called The Struggle 10 Years Later. It's available on the internet. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves.